My name is Steve DeNunzio. I'm a professor of logistics at the Fisher College of Business at Ohio State. For the uninitiated, logistics is everything that is going to get your holiday gifts to your friends and loved ones here in a few months. In that realm are things like transportation, trucking, warehousing, distribution of product, to a certain extent, retail in general, e-commerce, brick and mortar stores and how they function. And so we've got a big logistics program at Ohio State. I've been there about a decade, just over
Oh,
a decade. Before that, I had a long career in retail. So I worked with some big brands like Lululemon, the yoga
right.
apparel company, and DSW, which is a big footwear chain here in the United States. And just kind of did a left-hand career change a little bit more than a decade ago into academia. And it's been a great match for me, a great opportunity. Love teaching, love the students. And
Right.
so I'm
What
always,
made that switch? Why'd you go from corporate, just all that to academia?
yeah, some of my best decisions are made over meals.
Yeah.
And I was kind of having a crisis of identity of sorts. My role in retail was to manage big, multi-million-dollar strategic projects. And as is the case with some people, I got up one morning and decided I kind of already had that trophy, that T-shirt, and it really I wasn't driving a lot of uh, fulfillment out of that particular career path anymore. And just happened to be having lunch with a friend who had gone through something similar years before, and he said, have you thought about teaching? And I said, not for a minute. I haven't for a moment
Right.
thought about teaching. He said, I think you'd be really good at it. And that's kind of what,
Huh.
nudged the snowball over the crest of the hill. And it's just gained momentum
Right.
ever since. So
Super interesting.
can't claim that when I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher, or even, we'll say 20 years ago that was on my radar. But here we are.
It's really cool to see you in academia using JellyPod to kind of create podcasts for your students, for the industry at large. I would love just to hear a little bit more about what you're using JellyPod for today and
Yeah,
like how you found it. And
sure.
yeah,
Going back to keeping classes fresh, there's content, the things that you're teaching, but there is, what we call pedagogy and metacognition. So, the art and science of learning and teaching. And one of the things that I ate for breakfast every day for 25 years was supply chain and retail. And so, I try to keep that fresh, but this really means that my focus on upping my own game is education.
hmm
And the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, was really an ed tech incubator and accelerator. And
totally.
it forced a lot of universities to take a look in the mirror, and professors certainly, and answer the tough question: am I really leveraging everything that's out there to help the modern learner learn what they need to learn and how they prefer to learn, if that makes sense? This generation that's in college today, and I mean this in a very positive way, they're a digitally native generation.
Right. Right.
They have a relationship with technology, and they're accustomed to having, well, number one, having the knowledge of humanity in the palm of their hand. And two, and again, I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but everybody is competing for their attention.
Totally.
And research says that the human attention span is something like 5 to 7 minutes long. So in my mind, and I'm going to keep the math easy for anybody that's watching or listening. Let's say a class is 70 minutes long. That means that I need to shift gears 10 times or 9 times. Every
Right.
5 to 7 minutes, I need to be pivoting, whether that's a lecture, because I still have to lecture, right? Show a
Mhm.
video, do a simulation or something in class, and leverage something like a podcast. That's, I won't claim to be the world's most tech savvy guy from a AI or podcasting perspective. I'm kind of learning as I go.
Right. We all are. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm exploring and trying to wrap my mind around the best way to use it for classes.
What's been working so far? So you're creating a podcast. Is it a weekly one? Is it for like, are you taking your lecture notes and converting it into a podcast? Is it more of like is it additional content? Is it the existing content reformatted? Um,
Yeah, yeah. Good, great questions. Right now, the podcast is weekly,
gotcha.
Tuesday mornings, if I have my act together. The current ones I love these because they're naturally coming out of JellyPod, kind of between 7 to 9 minutes long, which
Gotcha.
is a pretty good length. I encourage everybody that's using the platform or considering exploring the platform. There are lots of resources out there for free podcast content. As an example, there are sites out there that offer royalty-free kind of Creative Commons bumper music.
Right.
So I've tried to leverage that. I've used GPT. I use GPT to create cover art for the podcast as well. So, those tools are out there, and you don't have to feel like you're starting from scratch or trying to boil the ocean.
Right. Totally.
I found it to be pretty intuitive, being
Right.
modestly tech savvy. The podcasts I'm creating right now are, I'm going to call them supply chain current event
Gotcha.
podcasts. So once a week, I go out and do some research, based on what's landing on my inbox and what I'm seeing in the news. Try to pick a hot topic and then submit those sources to JellyPod. Hit the magic button and then go through the script that's generated, make some modifications.
Curious about that part. So you're putting in logistics, current event news. How is that script that's generated by JellyPod? And are you feeling like you need to do a lot of modifications? Is it overall pretty good? Like how much editing do you do in that process in JellyPod versus like what we give you at a baseline?
It does not require a lot of editing. Maybe a better way to put that is, I think 95% of the editing that I do is just based on my personal style. And sometimes I will generate the audio. And once I kind of hear the generated audio, I make some tweaks.
Right.
Just as an example, I find if I remove a comma, sometimes that makes a big difference.
Right.
Just in the way that the engine that's generating the audio interprets the way that it needs to generate the human voice in response.
Totally.
So there's a little bit of that. Once in a while, the algorithms that are creating the story attribute something to me that I wouldn't put into the podcast. I don't know if that makes sense. Because, for example, it tries to create human interest stories based on the topic and the interaction between my co-host and myself.
Right.
And with my co-host, it's easy because she is AI generated, but the AI might, create a story about, when I, Steve, was working at this place and I did this thing.
Right.
And I never worked at that place and never did that thing. But the AI doesn't know that. So, but usually the story itself that it generates is pretty good, and I'll tweak it so that, for lack of a better way to put it, I can defend
Right.
on
Totally.
that particular story. That's being used for illustration.
No, it's super interesting. It's a great call out there. So I'm assuming that from what you just said, you have your weekly podcast and you have a AI generated host that you've created. You gave that host a backstory, a name, and a voice. And then you have a voice clone of yourself as the other host in your podcast.
That is the way that I have it set up. And it is pretty close.
Yeah.
Very close to my actual speaking voice, which you're hearing right now. The cloning process was very easy. I kind of erred on the side of recording a little bit extra, just so it had that context. And so this is kind of funny. I don't know if you watched The Voice or American Idol or shows like that. And one of the pieces of feedback that the judges give to the contestants is they really like it, for example, when a male performer performs a song that was made famous by a female performer. Because it's interesting. It's a counterpoint. They're going to interpret it in a different way. The male versus the female vocal range is different. And so when I was thinking about a counterpoint to myself, I thought, well, I'm old. I'm American, and I'm male. So a good counterpoint might be a young British female. And so my co-host Ellie is a young British female, and she's sort of building her own backstory as she goes, which is funny. So she assumed that she needed to also have a background in logistics and retail. So she tells those stories, which is kind of interesting. It was really funny. I was in a meeting a couple weeks ago, and one of the other people in the meeting, as they said, Steve, and I kind of looked up from whatever I was doing, and she hit play on her iPhone, and the theme music from the iPod started to play. And so she was just kind of, kidding with me a little bit, and she stopped it and she said, I've been meaning to ask you, how do you know Ellie? And I said, I hate to break it to you, but Ellie is not real. She, I guess, to the credit of JellyPod, that she felt that was a real person. And then, as a joke, I went into the JellyPod platform and just created a manual. I uploaded a script with a message from Ellie to this person, telling her that she was sorry to learn that she was sad that she had discovered that she wasn't real. So
That's hilarious.
yeah, you had asked about feeding Jelly Pod my lectures. I do plan to do that, and I'm interested to see what it generates in response. I have played with a couple other platforms to see how that turns out, and I think it's
Right.
a great way for the students, if they didn't understand a concept in class, to absorb it in a different way. So that's something I do plan to experiment with. I haven't done that yet.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, we've seen a significant increase of number of educators coming to JellyPod. And so I'm just really, I was really curious because I can't go through all of them, just to see at a high level, what are the topics that they're doing? Like for you, it's more of supplementary material, current event news. I do assume that there are some people out there doing like recaps of the lecture notes or maybe even dates and like, hey, there are these cool events on campus this week that might be interesting to you. So it's been interesting for us as well to kind of cater towards now what seems like a little bit of a growing momentum in the university systems within JellyPod. So that's been cool for us. I'm
Yeah.
also curious, what were you trying to do before JellyPod? How'd you come across it? And was it something that you were actively seeking, or was it something that you just ran across? You're like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. I will not claim to be the world's greatest expert on AI,
Right.
though as educators, we're increasingly having to move in that direction
Oh,
because of
yeah.
the sophistication of our students, as well as the fact that so many of the tools we're using are now powered partially or entirely by AI. I've got a colleague, another faculty member in our department it's one of his research areas, and he is very, very knowledgeable about the topic. And to his credit, he's been very patient with me as I ask dumb questions about the way things work and the best AI tools to use for different purposes. And he had I had been at an event where he had spoken on the topic, and he had cloned his own voice.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was just curious. I'm like, hey, how did you do that? And he told me, and I forget what platform he used for that, but he and I have gone back and forth about the value of the technology, and how we might use it in the classroom. And he uses JellyPod
Oh, whoa.
as well. And he's got a certain mechanism and a suite of different tools that he uses to sort of prepare his thoughts. And then I think he's using your script upload feature
Got it.
to upload his scripts.
Right.
So where I learned about it was through my colleague. Why I started using JellyPod was because I started to play around with it and I saw the potential uses in my own classes. We're trying to do something called flipping the classroom, which basically means you're not going into the classroom and just talking at them for 80 straight minutes. You may even record your lecture and have them watch it on their own time. And then when they come into the classroom, you can be creative and you can pivot from,
Right.
tool to tool or concept to concept or delivery method to delivery method. And I'm always looking at ways to do that. And
Awesome.
so, going back to those 7 to 9 minute current event topics, what I foresee is assigning one of those every week
Right.
and having them watch it as part of their asynchronous learning, part of their
Right.
offline, part of their not in the classroom learning,
Right. Right. Yeah. The homework.
homework, right?
Yeah.
Or prep. Maybe prep's a
Prep.
better,
Prep.
you
Right.
know, prep for being in the classroom.
Totally.
Yeah, so word of mouth is definitely valuable. I was not out there actively looking for a solution, although I'm confident some of your clients certainly are. It was just me seeing the possibilities once I started to experiment with the platform.
Got it. That makes total sense. Was there one thing about the platform that won you over when you started to use it? Was like, oh, this feature is why I'm going to stick around and use JellyPod versus seeking other platforms?
Ease of use, for
Ease of
sure.
use.
Yeah. I mean,
Cool.
any platform that if somebody who's completely not tech savvy can go onto a platform that's powerful and, there's an intuitiveness to it, you can experiment with it and not, you can learn from your mistakes, you can get better at it. And
Mhm.
it's easy to tweak it as you go. My first episode is very different than the one I posted yesterday. I think that's a good
Cool.
user experience, right? So I'm busy.
Right. For sure.
And with all apologies and due respect to any other professors that watch this, we don't have time. We don't have time
Right.
for it. And so the fact that I can feed it what I'm already reading from a source perspective on a particular topic and just sort of unleash it and see what it comes up with, make a few adjustments and then have something ready for the upcoming week. I mean, Pearson,
Right.
it literally takes me, I'm going to say 20 minutes to 30 minutes, mostly
Right.
because I'm a perfectionist and I'm going back. I tweak it and I regenerate it and I listen to it. And I'm like, I don't like that one thing. And I tweak it again and then I regenerate
Right.
that portion and I go back and I listen to how it flows. And not everybody's wired that way. They can probably move through it much faster. But either way, it's not a heavy burden on my time.
Right.
I
Right.
can
20
do it.
minutes to get a 7-minute episode out is 20, 30 minutes. I mean, that's great.
The ROI is super high for me. I can do it. I can do 90% of I want from my iPad,
Cool.
and probably the 10% I can't do is more a function of me not being great at doing everything on an iPad than it is the platform per se.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I've been pretty happy with the way that they're coming out. I may experiment with some other things. I know there's the capability to add a third host, or maybe if there's a fourth host.
Right. You could do 4 if you
Yeah,
want.
you know
Yeah.
better than I. So I might experiment with that and see what the uses are for that. But for now, the content's great. The length of them is great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
It's great to hear. I mean,
students have not seen them yet. I wanted to build momentum and understand it myself
got it.
before I use it in any classes. But what I am doing is I'm posting it to my LinkedIn feed, and
Cool.
I've got, I don't know, 5 or 6,000 followers or connections on LinkedIn, and seeing if there's any traction, seeing if there's any interest, listening to their feedback about what they like and don't like, and seeing what that means in terms of tweaks that I made.
Yeah. That's awesome. And is there anything that we don't have on JellyPod today that would make the experience better for you?
We're getting down to the nitty gritty of features, right?
I'm just always curious because
Yeah,
I'm not an educator, and is
yeah.
there some perspective that maybe you wanted to share here that I could help?
Um, one of the great things that I've observed about you and your team is it seems like every week you're innovating and adding new features. So I know that you're listening to the voice of your customer and the things that are adding value for them. I think that's the most powerful thing more than anything is, you know, that's advice for you and your team is just
Right.
keeping that mindset. You can't make
Totally.
everybody happy. The whatever the ROI on some features that somebody wants could be pretty low,
Right.
and prioritization is certainly part of that. But you and I have talked about my co-host,
Right.
and she's very expressive. I know that I need to explore with toy with her backstory and see how that changes the way that she delivers content.
Right.
Are there opportunities there to
Totally.
make that
Absolutely.
process more overt? Maybe there could be, but I like her. Apparently, she's fooling
Right.
people that she's real. So
Yeah, it's wild.
I'm not sure that I'm fooling anybody that I'm real. Yeah, you and I have talked about episodes and seasons.
Right.
I think that would be an interesting feature. For me as an educator, a season's like a semester or school year.
Hmm.
So being able to break
Totally.
them into school years or semesters might be helpful. I have to imagine that you have clients that are using it to tell stories of fiction, works of fiction, episodic stories, and that may be valuable to them as well. But no, I think you guys are great. I love I encourage anybody that cares to watch our conversation here to check out your Wednesday sort of State of the Union podcasts or
Right.
webisodes. I appreciate that you guys are doing that and keeping your user community informed about what you're working on and listening to what they want.
We have our weekly Wednesdays and always available on support chat and email, and you have my email as well. So yeah, and I don't want to take more of your time, but first off, just thanks so much for hopping on. It's
Oh,
super
thank you, Chris.
interesting to hear your story and learning a little bit about how you're using JellyPod, and hope we stay in touch. I hope the experience just gets better from here.
Well, I appreciate it. And everybody
Yeah,
go check out
thank you.
Jellypod. And I'm happy to chat with anybody about the great things you're doing.